H2 plus O2 making water. Okay, so I first put a blank in for the H2 plus my O2. I'm going to make water. I'm going to split it down the middle. I got my reactant side. I got my product side. On my reactant side, I have 2 hydrogens. I have 2 oxygens. On my product side, I have 2 hydrogens. I have 1 oxygen. Okay? So my hydrogens are already balanced, so all I need to do now is balance out my oxygens. So to get my oxygen to balance, I'm going to make a move on my board. So I'm going to put a 2 up here, which then multiplies to both elements in here. So I'm going to change my score to a 2. But here's the drag. By doing that, I now change my hydrogens. So I was balanced here, but I now have doubled my hydrogen, which makes it a 4. That's okay, because what I have left is 2 things by themselves. So it should be really easy now for me to balance this reaction and finish it up. I have 2 oxygens, 4 hydrogens, only 2 hydrogens. So on this side, how do I get this to double up? Put a 2 here, which then changes my score to a 4, and I now have balanced this equation. So I should get a 2 to 1 to 2 ratio on this one. Okay? Let's do the next one together, and then I'm going to stop at that point, and you can do additional practice for the last 3, or you can wait, and we'll do some of this work in class also. So our next one seems to be more complex, but let's take a look at it and break it down. So I have calcium hydroxide plus phosphoric acid and I'm going to make calcium phosphate plus water. Okay. Now, here's a little trick with this one. When I'm making the water, what I'm going to do is I'm going to write it a little bit differently. When you make water as one of your products, another tip or trick is you can write water as HOH. Now, the reason we do that is because I have a hydroxide in my equation. So by writing it as HOH, I can treat this as another hydroxide. Okay? I also have hydrogen on my reactant side, so now I have hydrogen. It just makes balancing this one easier. Okay? So let's work it out. Split it down the middle. Reactants, products. So I have calcium as a reactant. I have hydroxide as a reactant. I can now use it as its entirety because I have it here also. So hydroxide, I have hydrogen, and I have PO4 here, which is phosphate, but I also have phosphate over here. So since I have the polyatomic ion on both sides of my equation, I can use it as a single group again. On my product side, I have calcium. I have my hydroxide. I have my hydrogen. And I also have a phosphate. So I have the same compounds on both sides. Now, you only can do this, again, because you see them on both sides. If this was a PO3, you couldn't do it. You had to split up phosphorus and oxygen into separate things, which would make balancing it more challenging. Let's see what we start with. I start with 1 calcium, 2 hydroxides, 3 hydrogens, and 1 phosphate. Remember, the PO4 acts as one group. Here's a good time to maybe put some of those parentheses in that you don't need to help remind you that this is actually 1 PO4, not 4 of them. Okay. On the calcium side, I now have 3. Sorry, on the product side, I have 3. I have 1 hydroxide, 1 hydrogen, and 2 phosphates on this side. Okay. So let's take a look. What do I want to do first? Well, this thing looks kind of complex. That looks kind of complex. So I'm going to start with my calciums. I'm going to save my hydrogen, oxygen, that kind of stuff to later on. Okay? So I got 3 calciums over here. I got 1 calcium over here. So I want to get this one so it is matching that one. So I have 3 here. I'm going to triple my calciums, which then affects this calcium and my hydroxide. Keep score of that. My hydroxide go from 3 times 2. I now have 6 of those. Okay. So those are now balanced. So what do I want to do next? I have 6 hydroxides. I have 1 hydroxide. I have 2 phosphates, and I have 1 phosphate. Maybe I want to do my phosphates next because that's still kind of a complex molecule. So let's do that one next. So on this side I have 2. This side I have 1. So if I double this, that affects both the hydrogen and the phosphate. So now this has 2, which I want, but now my hydrogens go from being 3 to 2 times 3. I have 6 of those. Okay. Let's keep working. So now I have 6 hydroxides and I have 6 hydrogens. On this side I have 1 and 1. Interesting. It's almost like the ratios are the same. Again, saving hydrogen and oxygen to the end can help us. So hydrogen and oxygen, if I take this and I have 6 of them here, I now have 6 hydrogens, I now have 6 hydroxides, and I have balanced it, and I win. So the game's over. I have balanced my chemical equation. I didn't need to put anything here. Feel free to put a 1 in if it makes you feel warm and fuzzy inside, and you like that, but we are done with this one also. So let's check it on the key. So we got it right, okay. All right, guys, those are the examples I'm going to do for you today. There are 3 more on this screen. Feel free to practice these tonight. And then we'll also start with these tomorrow, and we'll start practicing off your worksheets tomorrow. So bring that stuff to class to do practice tomorrow. Thank you.